Hello, Yates County and beyond. Welcome back to another episode of Invasive Species Friday. Through this short weekly podcast, we at the Yates CCE hope to bring you information about the invasive species you may see around this county. We're flying with this week's invasive, Swede Midge. Native to Europe and Southwest Asia, Swede midges were first discovered in North America in 2000 in Ontario, Canada. In 2004, they were discovered on a broccoli farm in Niagara County, marking their first recorded presence in the U.S. They continued to multiply and are now widespread in New York, Vermont, and other New England states. They've been found in at least 12 states and 7 Canadian provinces. In the spring, Swede midges emerge from the top few inches of soil as adults, having overwintered as pupae. Research shows the entire population actually emerges in 3 distinct peaks from mid-May through June, instead of all at once. Adults only survive 1 to 5 days, so they quickly begin to mate. The female then looks for a suitable host plant to lay their eggs. They lay the tiny eggs in clusters of 2 to 50 on the plant's new growth. A female can lay around 100 eggs in her brief maturity. A few days later, Swede midge larvae hatch and begin to feed. They start out transparent and about 0.3 millimeters long, or the width of an ultra-fine tipped pen. They become more yellow as they get older and eventually reach their biggest size, 3 to 4 millimeters, or the height of 2 pennies stacked. Around 7 to 21 days after the midges hatch, they flip themselves off the plant to pupate in the soil. In favorable conditions, the new adults can emerge 7 to 14 days later. If there's a drought, the pupae can remain dormant, possibly for more than a year, until the conditions are right. Depending on the temperature, rainfall, and food supply, Swede midges can go through up to 5 generations a year. The damage caused by the midge's larvae is what pushes this fly over the edge into the invasive species category. Swede midge host plants are in the cruciferous group of the Brassica family, also called cole crops. The greatest damage has been noted on broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, Chinese broccoli, Chinese cabbage, and other Asian greens. There are also some wild plants that can serve as stepping stones between fields. The midge larvae feed on the leaf bases and flower buds by secreting fluids that break down the waxy plant cuticle, the outer protective layer of the plant. The fluids are toxic and cause a variety of deformities, including puckered and crinkled leaves, tissue swelling or galls, brown scarring, and twisting, distorted growing points. Unfortunately, these injuries are hard to distinguish from other damaging factors, so to confirm Swede midges are the issue, the larva needs to be found on the plant. The Swede Midge Information Center for the United States, hosted by Cornell University, is a repository for information on this week's invasive. They have a 4-step guide for scouting Swede midges. If you find a tiny maggot on the new growth of your cruciferous plant, look it over carefully. If the larva has black mouth parts, it may be a cabbage maggot. If it has a black head cap, it could be a diamondback moth larva. Imported cabbage worm larvae are fuzzy, and onion thrips have legs. This is all to say that if your broccoli or Brussels sprouts are exhibiting puckering, twisting, or malformed growth, you may want to call your local extension office because it could be any number of things. If Swede midges do invade, it's nearly impossible to eradicate the infestation. There are several best management practices that can keep the midge populations low and help minimize the damage though. Make sure to start with clean plants. Grow from seed if you can, or buy insect-free transplants. At the end of the season, don't leave behind the stalks or the roots of the harvested plants. If they sprout the next year, they'll be a ready food source for the newly emerged adults. It's also important to rotate where you grow your cole crops, moving the location as far from the last season's growth as possible each year. If the infestation is really bad one year, it may be wise to take a couple of years off from planting crops that host that fly. There are insecticides that might help, but they're less effective when the populations are too high and they can't be used on organic farms. The best thing you can do to prevent a problematic outbreak is to catch it early. Keep an eye out for damage, and if you think there may be Swede midges on your property or in your fields, reach out to your local extension office for the best next steps. And with that, we reach the end of this week's episode of Invasive Species Friday. Next Friday, we're back with a droopy bunchgrass. Until then, we at the Yates CCE thank you for tuning in and supporting our fight against invasive species in Yates County.